It's time to do the top 10 wingers video, isn't it? Let's just get this over with. My favorite winger in the 2022 draft class, and I suspect this will be at no surprise to anybody, that is Yuri Svechnikov. What's there to say about him that people haven't already said? He's big, and again, can't coach size. He's a good skater, which is really, really good, especially when you have that size. He has a great shot. He's just really good with the puck on his stick in the offensive zone, and could potentially have one of the high. Well, I should say he does have one of the highest upsides of anybody in this draft class. And as you'll see as we get down this list, I do think wing is the position where this draft class is the deepest. Now, I have not distinguished between left wing and right wing. Some of these guys play both. Some of these guys play center and a wing position, or potentially all three forward positions. So some of these guys may end up playing center at the NHL level, but generally speaking, I think regardless of whether or not they're playing center now, I believe that these guys are generally going to be wingers at the NHL level. My second favorite winger from this draft class is, of course, Brad Lambert. And what is there to say about Lambert that I haven't already said on this channel? He's got great vision. Some people disagree, but I think he has great vision. I love his transition play, which is a huge part of the game. I think it's a bit underrated, especially by like more casual fans, I guess. But if you're watching this video, you probably aren't a casual fan, let's be real. Uh, he's a good playmaker. He's really good at protecting the puck. All those things are just really like solid fundamentals that scouts look at. I'm sure he's going to fall way lower than he should because of his production. But you know what? That's the way it's going to be. Some team is going to get a steal. I am very confident in that. My third favorite winger from this draft class is Matthew Savoy, and he is a guy who is playing center now, but I do suspect he will end up playing wing at the NHL level. And what I really like about Savoy is his shot. I think his shot is a bit underrated. He is a dynamic playmaker. He's a really deceptive skater. He creates a lot of his chances by deceptive deeks with his skating. He'll fake one way and then cut back the other way much quicker than opponents can anticipate or expect. And that combined with his speed, where he's not like the crazy fast, but he is reasonably fast. It just allows him to create a lot of chances for himself that way, and it also opens up a lot of opportunities for him in transition. So Savoy, he is a bit risky because he is relatively small and he's not fantastic at resisting pressure, although he is decent at avoiding pressure altogether, but he's going to have to get better when he's playing against faster, better competition. So if he's going to work out at the NHL level, I do think he's going to be really, really good, or he likely won't work out at all. Either way, I have him at 3 in terms of wingers just because of the upside. At the fourth position for wingers in this draft, I have Gleb Trikazov. And kind of like Brad Lambert, this is a guy that I think is probably going to be a steal in this draft class just because I think he's overrated. I don't think there was a ton of hype there, and then he fell off with lack of production. And like Lambert's case, he's just a guy that is generally underrated. I mean, it's hard to say because I have no idea what NHL teams think of this guy, but I get the impression that he is not going to go in the first round. And to me, he is absolutely a first round talent. He's got great puck skills. When the puck is on his stick in the offensive zone, just things happen. Yes, he is playing in the MHL, which is not a league that is known for like great defense or great skill in general. There are a lot of really, really bad teams in that league, but I watched all the games that I watched of Trikazov when I was coming up with my opinion of him were in the playoffs, so he was playing against good teams and he was still making things happen. Now, his defense is bad, to say the least. So that is really the main criticism of his game. But yeah, he's fast. He is a good playmaker. He has good vision. He knows where his teammates are especially when he's in the offensive zone. He might look away to make a play and then do a no look pass because he looked ahead of time, knows where everybody is, and he's just really, really good. A really, really fun player to watch for sure, and it will be very interesting to see where he goes in the draft. Now, at 5 and 6, I have a couple of guys that, as I mentioned before in other videos, are kind of linked for me in that they are relatively similar prospects, and that is Joachim Kamel at 5 and Jonathan Lekarimäki at 6. Both of these guys are basically snipers that shoot the puck a lot, and you could kind of think of them, I guess, a little bit as like a Patrick Laine type player. Not saying that they are as good or will be as good as Patrick Laine, but that is a relatively similar style of play that they have. They do shoot the puck in times where I kind of wish they would pass it. Both players do that. And I do think Kamel is just a little bit better, well rounded. I think he uses his teammates a little bit more often and a little bit more effectively than Lekarimäki does. Although Lekarimäki did have great synergy with his line mates when he was playing J20 in Sweden this year. But you're not you're not guaranteed just because he had great synergy with those two guys doesn't mean he's going to have great synergy with whoever he plays with, right? Kamel is a guy that I think might be a little bit more flexible in terms of who he plays with. Lekarimäki is a guy that I think will need a certain type of player to play with to be more effective. And that does go for both of these guys, but I think a little bit more so for Lekarimäki, which is why I have him just behind Kamel. My seventh best winger in this draft class is Isaac Howard, and he is another guy who is just a offensive dynamo, really high upside, I think, and that kind of goes for these guys in general. There's a lot of upside at at the wing position in this draft. Howard, what I like about him particularly is that he has a really good shot, a quick release, which is important, and he likes to change the angle right before he shoots the puck, which makes it makes the goalie's job harder. Whenever a skater can change the angle at the last minute, you're getting the goalie to move, and just getting the goalie to move laterally even a little bit makes their job a lot harder. It makes the shot percentage higher, which is a really good skill to have. Of course, we'll have to every like with every prospect, things will be a little bit faster, a little bit tougher at higher levels, but I do think that that is a relatively projectable skill. Changing the angle is not exactly rocket science, but some players do it more than others, and Howard definitely falls into that category. The best winger in this draft class, in my opinion, is a bit of a wild card, and that is Ivan Miroshenko. He obviously lost a lot of development time this year with his cancer diagnosis, but he is in remission now, and he has been cleared to play to resume hockey activities. And he's another guy that I think has a lot of upside and perhaps has more upside than a lot of other players that are going to go in the range that he will be drafted in. But it is kind of hard to say where he's going to get drafted because I get the impression that while opinions in this draft class seem to be kind of all over the place in general, with a guy like Miroshenko, I get the impression that they're even more varied because of his uh, somewhat lack of development this year. He could be a guy that goes top half of the first round, maybe. He could also be a guy that goes in the second round. I honestly have no idea. So I think he has the skill and the upside to be worthy of a pick in the top half of the first round. So if he goes there, I don't think that's a crazy reach. But if he goes in the second round, that's crazy good value. So this will be one guy in particular from this list to really keep an eye on draft day. At the ninth best winger in this draft class, I have Danila Yurov, and the two things that I like about Yurov the most are his skating and his puck protection. And those are two of like the big things that any scout will look for in a prospect. It's pretty much those two things along with speed, uh, shot, and other various things. But in terms of like raw skills, those are two of the really important ones that a lot of scouts look at. So the fact that those things are looking solid, at least to my admittedly amateurish eyes, uh, I think that's a good sign. However, I will admit, he did not play well in the KHL this season. I mean, that's in my opinion, but he did play 23 games, had 0 points. So I think that does, although point production is not the end all be all, see Brad Lambert, I do think that his lack of production in the KHL does reflect his play. He did play really well at the MHL, but there obviously that is a huge difference in skill and responsibility between those two leagues. So a somewhat it is somewhat of a troubling sign that he did not play well in the KHL, because that to me signifies that he is perhaps not as far in his development as some people might have thought, especially given how well he was playing in the MHL. But it really just makes him a tough read in general in terms of where he's going to get drafted. I don't know. I do think he is one of the better wingers in this draft class, though, and I do think he has a lot of upside. Definitely worthy of a first round pick. Finally, rounding out this top 10 list, I have Jagger Ferguson. And I've talked about him a decent amount on this channel, so I'll just keep this short here. He is a small, undersized forward who is really good in the offensive zone, especially when he's away from the puck. But he does have a good shot, and he does have pretty good puck skills in general. I mean, this guy scored a freaking Michigan this year, and that is just pure vibes. He definitely passes the vibe test in terms of one, just having the moxie, I guess, to attempt a Michigan, two, have the skill to finish that Michigan, and then three, if you just look him up and see what he looks like, I think he's just a vibe in general based off his appearance. And four, his name is Jagger Fergus. Like that is also eminent emanates emits, I guess, great vibes. It's a great name, great hockey name. So yeah, he's just really good. One of my favorite players in the draft class. That being said, that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Do like it if you think it deserved a like. I will put another video on screen now for you guys to click on if you really liked it and you want to stick around for a while. But all that being said, have a nice day.